The studio lights in Glendale, Nevada, shone brightly, illuminating the stage where Simon Caldwell stood. Known nationwide as the unapologetic king of late-night comedy, Simon had built his career on sharp wit and unfiltered commentary. His audience, a lively mix of fans and first-time viewers, laughed along as he delivered one punchline after another, each one more biting than the last. But tonight, amidst the routine jabs at politicians and celebrities, Simon veered into dangerous territory. Without warning, his focus shifted to Barron Trump, the teenage son of the former First Lady and President. His words were swift, calculated, and undeniably cutting. The room's energy shifted. Some chuckled nervously, unsure of how to respond, while others sat in stunned silence, their discomfort palpable. This wasn't the usual light-hearted banter. It was a pointed comment directed at a young boy who had spent his life carefully shielded from the public eye. As the laughter waned, Simon smirked, seemingly unfazed by the unease rippling through the studio. For him, it was just another night at work, until it wasn't. Within hours, clips of the moment flooded social media. Twitter timelines exploded with hashtags like Cheer Support Barron and Comedy Boundaries, igniting a fierce and immediate backlash. Videos of the joke were replayed endlessly, analyzed and dissected by millions. Memes popped up, reactions flooded in, and opinions split sharply. For some, Simon's quip was just part of the job. Comedy that pushed boundaries, as it always had. Others, however, were enraged, calling the joke cruel and unnecessary. "This isn't comedy, it's bullying," read one viral tweet. "Kids should be off limits." The debate wasn't just about one joke anymore. It was about whether comedy had any limits, and what those limits should be. In Coral Shore, Florida, Melania Trump sat in her living room, her face a mask of disbelief as she watched the clip for the first time. The words stung, not just because they targeted her son, but because they attacked everything she had worked so hard to protect. From the moment Barron was born, Melania had made it her mission to shield him from the chaos and scrutiny that came with public life. Now, in one careless moment, that shield had been shattered. As the video ended, she leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. She had endured years of criticism and ridicule as the First Lady, but this was different. This was about Barron, her child, her heart. Melania felt a surge of anger mixed with an overwhelming need to act. Her instinct as a mother took over. "This is unacceptable," she said aloud, her voice calm but filled with resolve. "This won't go unanswered." That night, Melania didn't sleep. Instead, she sat at her desk, drafting a statement to address the situation. Her words were deliberate and measured, aimed not just at defending Barron, but at sending a clear message. Enough was enough. But even as she crafted her response, she realized that words alone wouldn't be enough this time. The insult had cut too deep, and the stakes were too high. By dawn, her decision was made. She would take legal action against Simon Caldwell and the network that had allowed this to happen. It was a bold move, one that would undoubtedly draw even more attention to the situation. But Melania was prepared to face the firestorm. This wasn't just about one joke. It was about drawing a line in the sand, a line that said children were off limits. Across social media, the reaction to the controversy grew more intense. Supporters of the Trump family flooded timelines with messages of solidarity. "No mother should have to see her child ridiculed like this," wrote one commenter, their post accompanied by a photo of Barron as a young boy, standing quietly next to his parents. Parents, especially, rallied behind Melania, sharing stories of their own experiences with protecting their children. But not everyone was sympathetic. Fans of Simon Caldwell and advocates for free speech pushed back, accusing Melania of overreacting. "If you can't take a joke, don't be in the public eye," one tweet declared, garnering thousands of likes. Late-night comedians began to close ranks, defending Simon and warning that any legal action could have a chilling effect on comedy as an art form. The country seemed to be dividing in real time, and the lines between humor and cruelty were being redrawn with every new post, comment, and headline. Back in Coral Shore, Melania contacted one of the nation's most renowned defamation attorneys. The lawyer, known for her fierce advocacy and no-nonsense approach, immediately grasped the weight of the case. Together, they began preparing a lawsuit that would send shock waves through the entertainment industry. The legal battle wasn't just about Barron, it was about accountability and the rights of public figures to protect their families. As Melania prepared for what lay ahead, Barron remained quiet, staying out of the spotlight as he always had. Friends close to the family described him as a reserved teenager, more comfortable in the background than in the glaring public eye. But even in his silence, his mother's actions spoke volumes. Melania wasn't just fighting for Barron. She was fighting for every parent who had ever struggled to protect their child from a world that could be cruel and unrelenting. And so, the stage was set for a battle that would transcend one family and one joke. This was about more than free speech or comedy. It was about drawing a line between what society was willing to tolerate in the name of entertainment and what it was not. What do you think? Should children of public figures be off limits? Or is comedy justified no matter the target? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The morning after Melania Trump's statement, the media erupted with an intensity that no one could have predicted. Headlines splashed across every major outlet. Melania Trump takes on late-night comedy giant, a mother's fight for respect, and battle over boundaries when comedy goes too far. News anchors dissected every detail of her statement, while pundits debated its implications for free speech, parenting, and the ever-blurring lines of public discourse. But Melania wasn't stopping at words. With her high-powered attorney at her side, she filed a defamation lawsuit against Simon Caldwell and the network behind his show. The legal filing, meticulously crafted, argued that the joke wasn't just a harmless quip. It was a calculated attack that inflicted emotional harm on Barron Trump and violated his right to privacy. The lawsuit sent shock waves through the entertainment industry. Late-night hosts, comedians, and free speech advocates rallied to Simon's defense. If we can't joke about public figures and their families, Where does it end? One prominent comedian declared during a monologue that same night. He was met with thunderous applause from his studio audience, but online, the reaction was more divided. Supporters of Melania saw the case as a long overdue reckoning for an entertainment culture that often prioritized shock value over decency. Parents, in particular, resonated with her message. Protecting our kids should never be up for debate, one mother wrote in a viral Facebook post, accompanied by a photo of her own children. The post was shared over 1 million times, sparking a wave of solidarity among families across the country. However, critics were equally vocal. Social media threads buzzed with accusations that Melania was using the lawsuit to regain relevance or settle old scores. "It's a PR stunt," one commenter wrote. "If you're in the public eye, you have to accept criticism, even if it's your family." The controversy wasn't just dividing public opinion, it was polarizing the nation. Meanwhile, Simon Caldwell refused to back down. On his next show, he addressed the lawsuit head-on, his voice laced with defiance. "Comedy is about pushing boundaries," he said, pacing the stage under the harsh studio lights. "If we start censoring jokes because someone's feelings are hurt, what's next? Do we ban satire? Do we silence every artist who makes someone uncomfortable?" His audience erupted in applause, but the undercurrent of tension was impossible to ignore. Behind the scenes, the fallout was already taking its toll. Sponsors began to distance themselves from Simon's show, wary of the growing backlash. The network issued a carefully worded statement expressing its commitment to free speech while also acknowledging the sensitivity of the situation. Yet, whispers of internal turmoil began to surface. Executives were reportedly at odds over whether to continue supporting Simon or cut their losses. For Melania, the fight wasn't just about Barron anymore. It was about challenging a system that she believed had gone too far. Her legal team worked tirelessly, compiling evidence that painted a damning picture of the network's role in the incident. Internal communications revealed that the joke had been vetted and approved, not for its humor, but for its potential to generate controversy and boost ratings. The revelation only added fuel to the fire. Critics of the network accused it of fostering a toxic culture where ethics took a back seat to profit. "This isn't about comedy," one journalist wrote in a scathing op-ed. "It's about exploitation. The network didn't just cross a line, they erased it entirely." Public interest in the case reached a fever pitch. Cable news devoted hours to panel discussions featuring legal experts, cultural critics, and fellow comedians. Podcasts released special episodes dissecting the lawsuit from every angle. Even college campuses became battlegrounds for the debate. In one particularly heated exchange at a university in Boston, students argued over whether the lawsuit represented a stand against bullying or an attack on artistic freedom. Amid the chaos, Barron Trump remained silent, as he always had. Friends close to the family described him as a quiet, introspective teenager who had never sought the spotlight. But the scrutiny surrounding the case inevitably seeped into his world. Reporters camped outside his school, eager for a comment or even a photo. Melania's protective instincts only deepened as she watched her son navigate the fallout of a situation he had no hand in creating. For Simon, the pressure was mounting. His once confident monologues began to take on a defensive tone, his jokes sharper and more bitter than before. The laughter in his studio felt forced, strained, as if his audience was trying to convince themselves that everything was fine. Behind the scenes, staffers described a tense environment, with Simon lashing out at producers and writers as the weight of the controversy bore down on him. As the legal battle progressed, the stakes only grew higher. Melania's team submitted damning evidence to the court, including internal emails that exposed the network's deliberate strategy to court controversy. One particularly damaging message from a senior executive read, "It'll get people talking. Controversy sells." The revelation shifted the focus of the lawsuit. What had started as a battle over a single joke was now a larger conversation about the ethics of media and entertainment. The public's attention turned to the network itself, with calls for accountability growing louder. Executives were forced to launch an internal investigation, and several high-ranking officials were placed on leave. Meanwhile, the courtroom became the center of a national spectacle. Legal analysts predicted that the trial would be a landmark case, setting precedents for both defamation law and the responsibilities of media organizations. The stakes weren't just legal, they were cultural. The outcome of the trial would shape the future of comedy, free speech, and the way society treated public figures and their families. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered daily. One side held signs reading, "Protect our kids," while the other side countered with messages like, "Save comedy." The tension was palpable, reflecting the broader divisions that had gripped the nation. Inside, Melania prepared for what she knew would be the fight of her life. Her resolve was unshaken, even as the pressure mounted. For her, this wasn't just about winning a lawsuit. It was about standing up for her son and sending a message to the world. Children were not fair game, no matter who their parents were. But little did anyone know, the most shocking revelation of the trial was yet to come. The bombshell testimony that would change everything was waiting in the wings, ready to turn the case and the entire narrative on its head. What about you? Do you think comedy should have boundaries, or does free speech mean anything goes? Let us know in the comments. The atmosphere in the San Francisco District Court was electric as the jury filed back in. Weeks of emotional testimony and shocking revelations had built to this climactic moment. Melania Trump sat poised and resolute, her focus unyielding. Across the room, Simon Caldwell appeared visibly uneasy, his trademark confidence replaced by an air of nervous anticipation. The jury's verdict was swift and unequivocal. Simon Caldwell was found liable for defamation, and the network was held responsible for fostering a toxic culture that prioritized controversy over integrity. The court ordered significant damages, not just as compensation, but as a message to the entertainment industry. No child should be a casualty of media sensationalism. The verdict sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Simon Caldwell's show, once a cornerstone of late-night television, was immediately placed on indefinite suspension. Sponsors pulled out. The network issued a carefully worded apology, and whispers of internal restructuring began circulating. Caldwell, now at the center of a firestorm, released a brief statement. Comedy must always push boundaries, but I recognize now that some lines should never be crossed, especially when it comes to children. It was a concession, but a hollow one for many who had seen the damage unfold. Outside the courthouse, Melania Trump stepped forward to address the press for the first time since the lawsuit began. Her words were clear and deliberate. This case was never about silencing comedy or restricting free speech, she said. It was about accountability. It was about drawing a line between humor and harm and standing up for the dignity of every child, no matter who they are. Her statement resonated deeply, sparking a national conversation. Parents across the country rallied behind her, flooding social media with messages of solidarity. If we don't stand up for our kids, who will? One viral post read, accompanied by a photo of Barron Trump as a young boy standing beside his parents. Critics, however, warned that the case set a dangerous precedent, threatening creative expression and comedy's ability to challenge societal norms. The debate was fierce, but the public mood had shifted. The overwhelming majority agreed. Children should be off limits, even in the world of satire. For Simon Caldwell, the fallout was swift and brutal. His once commanding presence on late-night television became a shadow of its former self. Rumors of internal dissent at the network grew louder as executives distanced themselves from the controversy. Former allies in the comedy world were hesitant to defend him, recognizing the public's growing disdain for exploiting private lives for laughs. Meanwhile, the case became a cultural milestone, redefining the boundaries of entertainment. Networks instituted stricter guidelines for humor involving private individuals, particularly minors. Sponsors demanded greater oversight, unwilling to be associated with content that risked public outrage. Late-night hosts, once fearless in their jabs, began treading more carefully, aware of the seismic shift in societal expectations. For Barron Trump, life slowly returned to normal. Shielded once again by his mother's unwavering resolve, he focused on his education, staying out of the spotlight as he always had. Friends close to the family described Melania as relieved but introspective, reflecting on the hard-fought battle. This wasn't just about Barron, she reportedly confided to a close friend. It was about every child who deserves to grow up without being a target. Across the nation, the trial left an indelible mark. College campuses hosted debates on the ethics of comedy. News programs aired specials exploring the fine line between free speech and harm, and families gathered around dinner tables to discuss the implications of the case. One question lingered in everyone's mind. Where should society draw the line? The entertainment industry, once emboldened by the mantra, "controversy sells," began to reckon with its role in shaping cultural norms. The revelations during the trial exposed the dangers of prioritizing ratings over ethics, forcing networks and comedians alike to confront the consequences of their actions. While some decried the changes as stifling creativity, others saw it as a necessary step toward a more empathetic and responsible media landscape. As the dust settled, one truth became clear. While free speech is a fundamental right, it carries with it the responsibility to wield that power thoughtfully. Humor can challenge, provoke, and inspire, but it must also respect the dignity of those it touches. What about you? Do you think comedy should have boundaries, or should free speech always prevail? Share your thoughts in the comments below.